Hi, and welcome to English Channel. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
1. Introduction. Jerusalem is not just a city of stone walls and ancient streets. It is also an idea, a promise, and a place of deep faith. For more than 3,000 years, many powerful empires tried to control this city. Kings, armies, and rulers believed they could keep it forever. But history tells another story. Jerusalem changed rulers many times. Some historians say the city changed hands more than 40 times. It was destroyed again and again. Each time, people rebuilt it. Even after wars, fires, and invasions, Jerusalem did not disappear. The city always rose again, because Jerusalem is more than land or buildings. For millions of people, it is a symbol of belief, memory, and hope. And that is why no empire has ever truly owned Jerusalem. 2. The beginning near the Gihon Spring, 3500 to 1000 BC. The story of Jerusalem began thousands of years ago. Long before great kings and large temples, small groups of people came to live near a natural water source called the Gihon Spring. Around 3500 BC, this spring was very important. In the dry hills of the region, fresh water meant life. People needed water to drink, cook, and grow food. Because of this, early settlers built their homes close to the spring. Small houses slowly formed a small community. Life in those days was simple, but not always safe. Different tribes often fought for land and water. The Gihon Spring was very valuable, so the people needed to protect it. By around 2000 BC, a group of people called the Canaanites controlled the area. They were skilled builders and traders. The Canaanites built strong stone walls around their city to protect the spring and their homes. Some of these walls were very thick and strong. Parts of them can still be seen by archaeologists today. The city slowly grew stronger and more organized. Traders and travelers passed through the region, bringing news and goods from other lands. Around this time, the name of the city appeared in ancient Egyptian texts. In these writings, the city was called Jerusalem. Historians believe this is one of the earliest names for Jerusalem. This shows that the city was already known in the ancient world. Even in these early years, Jerusalem was important because of its location, its water, and its strong defenses. But the most important changes were still to come. 3. The capital of David and the Temple of Solomon, 1000 to 586 BC. Around the year 1000 BC, a new chapter in the story of Jerusalem began. At that time, the city was controlled by a group of people called the Jebusites. They lived inside the strong walls of the hilltop city and believed their city could not easily be taken. But a new leader soon appeared in the region. His name was David. David was the king of the Israelites. He wanted to unite the different tribes of his people under one kingdom. To do this, he needed a capital city that belonged to no single tribe. Jerusalem was the perfect choice. David and his army captured the city from the Jebusites. After the victory, he made Jerusalem the capital of his kingdom. From that moment, the city became known as the City of David. Jerusalem began to grow in importance. It was no longer only a strong hill city. It was now the political center of the kingdom. Later, David's son, King Solomon, became the ruler. Solomon was known for his wisdom and great building projects. His most famous project was the construction of the first temple, also known as the Temple of Solomon. This temple was built on a sacred hill in the city. According to the beliefs of the people, it was a special place where the presence of God could be felt on earth. The temple became the heart of religious life for the Israelites. People traveled long distances to come to Jerusalem to pray and offer sacrifices. Because of the temple, Jerusalem changed forever. It was no longer only a political capital. It became a spiritual center for millions of believers. But the city's peace and glory would not last forever. Powerful empires were rising in the region, and soon Jerusalem would face one of the greatest tragedies in its history. 4. Ruins and the memory of Babylon, 586 to 538 BC. For many years, Jerusalem was a proud and important city. The temple built by King Solomon stood at the center of the city. People came from far away to pray there. The city was the heart of the kingdom and the faith of the people. But a powerful empire was rising in the east. This empire was Babylon. In 586 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II attacked Jerusalem. His army surrounded the city and slowly broke through its defenses. The battle was terrible, and the city could not survive. The Babylonian soldiers destroyed much of Jerusalem. They burned houses and broke down the city walls. The most painful loss was the destruction of the great temple. The Temple of Solomon, which had stood for centuries, was burned and turned into ruins. For the people of Jerusalem, this was a disaster beyond words. Many leaders, priests, and skilled workers were taken far away to Babylon. This event is known as the Babylonian exile. Families were separated from their homeland and forced to live in a foreign land. Many people believed that Jerusalem would disappear forever, like many other ancient cities that were destroyed in war. But something unusual happened. Even though the city lay in ruins, it did not disappear from the hearts of its people. The exiled communities in Babylon continued to remember Jerusalem. They spoke about it, sang songs about it, and prayed for the day they could return. Jerusalem slowly became more than a physical city. It became a symbol of hope, faith, and identity. Even far away from their homeland, people believed that one day the city would live again, and history would soon prove them right. 5. Rebirth under great empires, 538 to 164 BC. In 539 BC, a great change took place in the ancient world. The Persian Empire defeated Babylon and took control of its lands. The new ruler was Cyrus the Great, one of the most famous kings of Persia. Unlike many conquerors, Cyrus ruled in a different way. Instead of destroying the traditions of conquered people, he often allowed them to keep their culture and religion. In 538 BC, Cyrus made an important decision. He allowed the Jewish people who had been exiled in Babylon to return to their homeland. For many families, this was the moment they had prayed for during many years of exile. Groups of people slowly traveled back to Jerusalem. When they arrived, they saw a city still damaged and broken from the old war. The temple was gone, and much of the city needed to be rebuilt. But the people did not lose hope. They began rebuilding their city and their religious life. In 516 BC, the Second Temple was finally completed. Once again, Jerusalem became an important spiritual center. However, the city's story did not become peaceful for long. In 332 BC, a young and powerful conqueror arrived in the region. His name was Alexander the Great. His army quickly defeated the Persian Empire and took control of many lands, including Jerusalem, under Alexander and the rulers who came after him. Greek culture spread across the region. Greek language, ideas, and traditions became very influential. Some people in Jerusalem welcomed these changes. Others believed that these new influences threatened their ancient religious traditions. This tension slowly grew stronger and would soon lead to serious conflicts within the city. Jerusalem once again stood at the center of powerful forces, caught between empires, cultures, and faith. 6. The Age of Herod and the beginning of Christianity, 37 BC, 66 AD. In the 1st century BC, Jerusalem entered a new period under the power of the Roman Empire. Rome was the strongest empire in the world at that time. The Romans controlled many lands around the Mediterranean Sea, including Judea. To rule this region, Rome supported a local king named Herod, later known as Herod the Great. Herod became king around 37 BC. He was a powerful but controversial ruler. Some people respected him because he built many impressive projects. Others feared him because he ruled with great force. One of Herod's greatest projects was the expansion of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Herod wanted the temple to be the most beautiful religious building in the ancient world. He ordered thousands of workers and builders to rebuild and enlarge it. Huge stones were cut and carefully placed to create strong walls and wide courtyards. The temple complex became enormous. Many travelers who visited Jerusalem were amazed by its beauty and size. For the Jewish people, the temple was once again the center of their religious life. During this same period, another important story began in the region. A man named Jesus was born in nearby Bethlehem and later began teaching across the land of Judea and Galilee. He spoke about love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of God. Many people followed him and listened to his teachings. Eventually, Jesus came to Jerusalem, the religious heart of the region. But his message also created tension with some religious and political leaders. Around 30 AD, Jesus was arrested and sentenced to death by crucifixion under Roman authority. He was executed outside the city walls of Jerusalem. For his followers, this event did not end his story. They believed that Jesus rose from the dead and that his teachings would change the world. Jerusalem soon became a central place for the early followers of Jesus. Over time, the city would be remembered as one of the birthplaces of Christianity. But once again, the peace of Jerusalem would not last long. 7. Destruction and Romanization, 70 to 313 AD. In the years after the death of Jesus, tensions between the Jewish population and the Roman Empire grew stronger. Many people in Judea were unhappy with Roman rule. Heavy taxes, strict control, and political pressure caused anger among the population. In 66 AD, a large Jewish rebellion began against the Roman Empire. The rebels hoped to regain their independence. Rome responded with great military force. In 70 AD, the Roman army, led by the general Titus, attacked Jerusalem after a long and difficult siege. The city suffered greatly during this battle. When the Romans finally captured Jerusalem, they destroyed much of the city. The Second Temple, which had once been expanded by King Herod, was burned and torn down. Only one part of the temple complex remained standing, a section of the outer wall, now known as the Western Wall. For the Jewish people, this destruction was another great tragedy in the history of Jerusalem. But the conflict did not end there. Several decades later, another revolt began. This uprising is known as the Bar Kokhba Revolt, which lasted from 132 to 135 AD. After crushing the rebellion, the Roman Emperor Hadrian decided to completely change the city. He rebuilt Jerusalem as a Roman colony and gave it a new name, Aelia Capitolina. Roman temples, statues, and buildings replaced many older structures. The emperor even banned Jewish people from entering the city. Hadrian hoped that by doing this, he could erase the Jewish identity of Jerusalem forever. But history would once again show that the spirit and memory of the city were far stronger than any empire. 8. The spiritual capital of the Byzantine Empire, 313 to 638 AD. In the early 4th century, a major change happened in the Roman world. In the year 313 AD, Emperor Constantine made an important decision. He allowed Christianity to be practiced freely across the Roman Empire. Before this time, many Christians had been persecuted for their beliefs. Now their religion could grow openly. This decision also changed the future of Jerusalem. For many Christians, Jerusalem was already a sacred place. It was the city where Jesus had taught, where he was crucified, and where his followers believed he rose from the dead. Because of this, the city slowly became an important destination for Christian pilgrims. People from many parts of the empire began traveling to Jerusalem. They wanted to see the places connected to the life of Jesus and pray there. Constantine's mother, Helena, played an important role during this time. She traveled to Jerusalem to search for the holy places connected to Jesus. According to tradition, she helped identify the location where Jesus was crucified and buried. Soon after, a great church was built on that site. In 335 AD, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was completed. This church became one of the most important Christian holy sites in the world. During the Byzantine period, Jerusalem was transformed into a center of Christian life. New churches, monasteries, and pilgrimage roads were built. The city became filled with visitors who came to pray and learn about their faith. For many centuries, Jerusalem was seen as a spiritual capital of the Christian world. However, the balance of power in the region was once again about to change. 9. The Muslim conquest and the symbol of the Dome of the Rock, 638 to 1099 AD. In the 7th century, a new force began to rise in the Middle East. The early Islamic Caliphate expanded quickly across many lands. In 638 AD, Muslim armies reached Jerusalem. At that time, the city was still under Byzantine control. After negotiations, the city surrendered peacefully to the Muslim leader Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab. Unlike many violent conquests in history, this transfer of power happened without the destruction of the city. Umar allowed Christian holy places to remain protected. He also made an important decision that changed the city's history. For nearly 500 years, Jewish people had been banned from living in Jerusalem after the Roman period. Umar allowed them to return to the city once again. Under Muslim rule, Jerusalem continued to be a place where different religions lived side by side. Toward the end of the 7th century, another major building project began. A magnificent structure known as the Dome of the Rock was built on the Temple Mount, one of the most sacred areas in the city. The building was completed around 691 AD. Its golden dome soon became one of the most famous symbols of Jerusalem. For Muslims, this place holds deep religious meaning. According to Islamic tradition, the Prophet Muhammad began his journey to heaven from this location during the night journey. Because of this belief, Jerusalem became the third holiest city in Islam, after Mecca and Medina. By this time, Jerusalem had become sacred to three major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This unique spiritual importance made the city even more special, but it also made it a place that many powers wanted to control. Soon, new armies from distant lands would march toward Jerusalem, beginning another dramatic chapter in its long history. 10. The Crusades and the struggle for the Holy City, 1099 to 1517 AD. At the end of the 11th century, a new and violent chapter began in the history of Jerusalem. Armies from Europe started a series of religious wars known as the Crusades. In 1099, Crusader knights from Christian kingdoms in Europe arrived at the city after a long and difficult journey. Their goal was to capture Jerusalem, which they believed should belong to the Christian world. After a hard siege, the Crusaders finally broke through the city walls. What followed was one of the darkest moments in the city's history. Many Muslim and Jewish residents were killed during the capture of the city. For the Crusaders, this was a victory, but for the people living in Jerusalem, it was a terrible tragedy. The Crusaders then established the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and the city became a Christian-ruled state for many years. Churches were expanded, and Christian pilgrims from Europe began visiting the city in large numbers. But the struggle for Jerusalem was far from over. In 1187, a powerful Muslim leader named Saladin led his army against the Crusader kingdom. After defeating the Crusader forces at the Battle of Hattin, Saladin moved toward Jerusalem. When he captured the city, the situation was very different from the earlier Crusader conquest. Instead of ordering a massacre, Saladin allowed many residents to leave safely. He also allowed Christian pilgrims to continue visiting the holy places in the city. Under Saladin and the rulers who followed him, Jerusalem returned to Muslim control. However, the Crusades did not end immediately. Over the next centuries, armies from Europe and Muslim dynasties in the region continued to fight for influence. Different Muslim dynasties, including the Ayyubids and later the Mamluks, ruled the city during this period. Wars, treaties, and shifting alliances shaped the political landscape of the region. Even during times of conflict, Jerusalem remained a sacred city for many religions. Pilgrims still came to visit its holy sites. By the early 16th century, another powerful empire was rising in the region. Soon, Jerusalem would become part of a vast empire that would rule the city for centuries. 11. From Ottoman walls to modern division, 1517 present. In 1517, the powerful Ottoman Empire conquered Jerusalem and much of the surrounding region. The Ottomans would rule the city for about 400 years. One of the most famous Ottoman rulers was Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. During his reign in the 16th century, he ordered the construction of strong new city walls around Jerusalem. These walls were built between 1537 and 1541 and still stand today. They became one of the most recognizable features of the Old City. Under Ottoman rule, Jerusalem remained an important religious center. People from many different faiths continued to visit the city's holy places. However, the world was changing quickly in the early 20th century. During World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed. In 1917, British forces took control of Jerusalem. After the war, Britain governed the region under what was called the British Mandate. During this time, tensions between Jewish and Arab communities in the region grew stronger. Both groups had deep historical and religious connections to the land. In 1948, after the end of the British Mandate, war broke out in the region. The city of Jerusalem was divided. The western part came under Israeli control, while the eastern part was controlled by Jordan. For nearly 20 years, the city remained divided by borders and barriers. Then, in 1967, another major conflict occurred, known as the Six-Day War. After this war, Israel took control of East Jerusalem, and the city became unified under Israeli administration. However, the political and religious status of Jerusalem remains one of the most sensitive issues in the world today. For many nations, religions, and communities, Jerusalem is not just a city. It is a place of deep history, faith, and identity. And even after thousands of years, the story of Jerusalem is still being written. 12 Lessons from the Dust of Time. The long story of Jerusalem teaches us an important lesson. This city has been loved by many different people for thousands of years. Jews, Christians, and Muslims all see Jerusalem as a holy place. Because of this, no single nation or empire has ever been able to truly own it forever. Many rulers tried to control the city with walls, armies, and power. They believed strength could decide who should rule Jerusalem. But history shows that these efforts never lasted. Even when the city was destroyed or conquered, its meaning lived on in the memories and faith of millions of people. Jerusalem is more than land or buildings. It is a symbol shared by many cultures and religions. Perhaps the city will only find real peace when people see it not as something to possess, but as a shared heritage where different faiths can live and respect one another.